the language of variables. And so we'll drop this local host, go back to our server. And if we wanted to set up languages here on the back end, we wanted to add a new language. We wanted to add French. So we would need to put a language code, a country code, and then put the descriptive language and descriptive country. So if we wanted to install French, our language code would be FR, country code, FR, just 2-letter language country code, and France, and language, sorry, French, and the country, France, and we click save. And then it automatically, if you have the proper 2-letter language and country code, then it automatically picks up the little language flag. And from now on, whenever we go to the browser and we go to look at, I'll look at one of David's page, I'll look at his REST form test, and then I wanted to preview his page and see if his form persists in French, which it does. So I'm looking at David's page in French, and the widget is still there because widgets persist across languages. Let me go to Adam. Okay, and look at his homepage here. And I look at French. Now, widgets persist, but his so the widget here for his host, persists. He doesn't have a Facebook or authorized.net, but he does have Google Analytics and the host name. And so he would have to go to the French version of his host content, make sure he had a Facebook and an authorized.net set there in the French version of his host content. If I click back on English, if we wanted to take this content and have a French version on it or a Spanish version on it, we could just edit the piece of content, then go to the language here, Spanish, and it says, would you like to copy the English content into your Spanish so that then you can translate? There's no auto translation there unless you made it a workflow sub action, and then you could have Google Analytics do it. But this is just Latin anyway, so I'm going to just put Spanish at the beginning of it with a little hyphen, right? Save and publish. Now I have a Spanish version, right? I can edit that content again, go to French. Would you like to copy? Yes, I would. And I'll put French. And save and publish. And then I'll edit this and put English. Right? It's just so we know what version we're on as we're previewing. And here, I can now switch my page to Spanish. I get my Spanish content here. I switch my page to French, get my French content here, and then I can look at mobile device. I want to look on an iPhone 6 and look at my French content. You can see it on any device and all that good stuff. Right? So that is how to look at pages. Obviously, from our content search, I can look at all languages. Generic content was what we were just looking at. So here's Adam's welcome message in English, French, and Spanish. If I just wanted to look at just Spanish or English or just French, I can search, find out that only on generic content, the only French message is Adam's because I just installed it and just translated that one piece of content. I can click into that message and there's my French. I can look at that. I can look at the history on this one piece of content. Remember, all of the language versions are just another version of the piece of content in that particular language. They all have separate inodes, for the language version that they are. All right. So that is how to install languages, and it automatically ends up giving you all of those options there. Now, in the web developer course, we're going to cover how do you program for picking up a lot of these properties, and we're going to show how you can set up variables in multiple languages, so that if you have buttons or fields on a form or all of that, how you can programmatically change all of that as well. And there is a new content type that actually handles that, called language variables. So it's this is it the key value? Yeah, it's a new language variable content type that should be able to manage keys and values using this particular content type. And I'll show you how to reference them. Okay, so you can do programmatic things using languages. Okay, well then that's then probably the only cursory coverage we need to give. We will actually go a little bit more in depth with it in the web developer, just to show you that there's configurations on how you want content to fall through or not. But we'll do cursory coverage. I would suggest that if later you want to do multilingual content, even though we're going to go over all the basics in training in web developer next week on how you even handle things in code, we'll be brief there. And I would suggest that if later on down the road you do it, then you just do a support ticket and say, okay, we're ready for multilingual content. These are the types of content. These are the way we want our pages to act. And there's different ways to handle if you want each of your different hosts in multiple languages, if they need to be separate hosts, or if they're the same host that shares content. So there's a lot of advice. The same way, I think, whenever you set up your push publishing environments, that should also be here's our diagram between all of our servers. This is where we have all of our content authors. This is where we're pushing from. These are the user roles that are pushing from these points. This is how our push publishing workflow works. Is our workflow settings right for push publishing? Is our servers set up properly? Have we established authoring on the right servers? That's a great support type question, as well as whenever you're setting up clusters or you're doing proxy servers. That would be a nice support ticket with our server admins, just to go ahead and say, did we set up all of our clustered nodes right? Are we load balancing properly? What are our settings? I think things like that as a consult type of support ticket is a very good idea for, just those three things that I can manage whenever you're doing, if you're handling your own upgrade, and it's a 5.0 or some big thing, those types of support tickets that are used for consults, I think, are important. And if you're going to totally internationalize your content, then I think that's a good support ticket as well. Get some hand holding for that type of thing.